We have a quorum. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I'll call this meeting to order. We've got several bills we're going to take up today. We've got to get off the calendar by tomorrow. And I'm going to recognize Senator Polk on the first several bills. Senator Polk, you were recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move that we take up 31, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 in block.
Any member wish to pull or set aside any of those bills? Seeing, hearing none, the motion is to take them up in block. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Senator Polk, you're recognized to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These bills are ARPA bills, and they are additional funding for these agencies out of the $350 or so million that were left over last year. So I'll go over it quickly. We are looking at Senate Bill 3113, which is our Accelerate Mississippi program. We're looking at $15 million for, I'm sorry, make sure I've got the right one here. Yes, $15 million for the nurse allied health training for the community colleges and IHLs, and $3 million for the residency programs, which we passed in 2023. This session, 2371 is the bill number. Then we go to 3114. Excuse me. This is the DEQ city and county water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure bill. They have told us that $41 million additional will fund all the requests that they had in their grading system. And we feel like that $41 million for every city and county to get their request is well worth that expenditure of ARPA funds. Then we look at 3115. There was a huge response from the water associations. I'm sure many of you had associations that received grants and some that probably were just on the cusp of getting one. So the recommendation there is to have $75 million more added to the fund to go for a second round of funding with a primary look at doing mergers. Any systems that do mergers would get a few more points added to their score for a merger. Now, a merger not necessarily is a pipe connection. The merger can be an administrative merger. Next would be 3116, the DFA tourism bill, $12 million for the DMOs, which are all over the state and many are local in your area, and $3 million for the Main Street program. These funds last year were larger. Of course, we had more money to give away then, but right now, excuse me, these dollars were well spent. They brought in income to Mississippi and her people. And I think that 12 million and 3 million there will be money well spent. Next is 3117. We spent a lot of money in the employee insurance program through COVID. We gave 60 million last year. We've identified 30 million more, and we feel like that is a good expenditure for our employees' health program. And then last on the list that we have is Bill 3118. This would be $75 million for eligible projects through the BOB. This is what they tell us that what the work we started last time with the 160 or $70 million that we appropriated, that these will help finish or will finish those projects, so we won't leave a project undone. Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions, I move title sufficient to pass.
Thank you, Senator Polk. Before I request questions, one comment I wanted to make on the rural water associations. Senator Polk mentioned the idea of giving some emphasis or additional points in the process to those that will merge. I think what we have talked about both internally and externally is also identifying any rural water associations that have merged in the last several years. So if they have merged already, they would get the benefit as a company or associations that merge now. So it's just one other piece I wanted to add to it. I mean, some of the details of that need to be worked out, and we're going to have a bill later on that talks keeping all the ARPA code sections coming forward to get general language in that we may need. But I just wanted to add that. So with that being said, are there questions? Senator Turner Ford, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Polk, my first question relates to Senate Bill 3113 of the $18 million, I think was that for the nursing program that you mentioned?
Yes, well, 15 for the nursing.
15 for the nursing. Do we know if the fund was exhausted? And if so, how many students or individuals were reached through the program?
Okay, we don't have that information right now.
And my next question for 3114, this is for the rounds that were administered through MDEQ, is that correct? How many, were there just 2 rounds of funding?
Yes, that's correct.
And were all of the projects funded as requested?
If we give this $41 million appropriation, that would be the correct, yes.
So the funds that we will be appropriating would be to fund those projects that were applied to, I think as late as December, is that
I think
accurate?
the last ended January 31.
January 31? And so some of them have not been funded.
Or
Those have not been funded.
none of them have been issued checks yet. Many of them have been approved, but this 41 million, they'll be able to go ahead and approve those that were on the cusp, so to speak. The $41 million will make it available for them. So all the projects will be able to be completed.
And so what we do not anticipate is another round of applications being opened.
That's correct. In the DEQ city and county, there will not be another round.
And can you tell us if this 41 million is appropriated, the total amount that will have been appropriated for the program?
Well, it goes with the 450 million we've already appropriated.
And Senate Bill 3115 with the rural water infrastructure programs, how many residents or families do we anticipate being covered if this fund is appropriated as proposed in the legislation?
Say that again, please.
How many homes or families do we anticipate reaching to fund these water programs if this bill passes?
I do not have that data. That is one of the things that is considered in grading, is how many are on your system. The more you have on your system and the fewer you have on your system, get more of the higher points, and those in the middle get the less number of points.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Senator Turner Ford. Next question, Senator Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Pope, this is addition to the money that the agencies were, or the organization were appropriated last year, correct?
That is correct.
So have we looked at the spending, to track the spending, to make sure that these agencies or organizations are going to spend all the dollars that we've appropriated to them?
Well, all the dollars have not been spent yet because some of the projects are very large. But what we do know is these are the dollars they need to finish the projects that were started last year with the appropriation we did do.
Okay, I mean, are there any concerns that we're gonna have money left on the table after the expiration of the funds?
I don't anticipate any, but surely there'll be, I hate to say it this way, $1 to $1 million here, $1 million there that may not be spent by the deadline, that would go back to the ARPA fund and we would figure out a way to utilize it to the betterment of the state.
And looking at the end date is what, June 30th, 2024. So if there are funds, we have an opportunity in next session to reallocate or reappropriate those dollars to the same organization or other organizations.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Senator Pope.
Thank you, Senator Norwood. Senator Butler, Kelvin Butler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Pope, this is kind of in line with Senator Norwood's question. Are we tracking this any kind of way? Do we know what is getting done, what money has been spent, what money has not been spent?
We are tracking it. Whether we have an up-to-date figure right now, I can't say that we do. For instance, the 450 million we appropriated to DEQ last year, none of it has been spent except maybe for some contractual services because the projects have not been finished. And we didn't want to go ahead and announce the grants and start paying until we saw what the legislature's will was on this 41 million. I think it'll be a great day when we can say we have funded every request that the cities and counties had through the ARPA funds.
I agree with that totally, but again, you know, do we know what projects have been funded that had not gotten money yet?
Senator, I'll jump in here if you don't mind. The breakdown, we get a periodic breakdown from DFA, and it'll let you know which projects are going forward, where the money's appropriated and allocated, who has spent portions or all of that money. And so you can get that periodically, and that's part of the administrative fee that we paid to DFA. I think they contract with Horn to do most, if not all of that, to track all that and make sure it meets ARPA requirements and make sure the dollars are being spent the way that they say they are. And this is going to take, I think, depending on the project, I think we've gotten through 2026. Is that right? Yeah. So yeah, 2026 is when they have to be expended. So this is going to be ongoing for a while.
Again, I understand that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But, you know, I guess I just kind of want to know kind of where the money is being spent at, and, you know, cause making sure that, you know, my district gets some money, and as well as, you know, knowing where the money is going and how they can benefit from all this money just being spent all over the state.
Sure.
So can we
pull that information together so you can have that. Everybody can have that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Nothing hidden here. There's no.
No. And I understand that, but that's why I'm asking questions. I want to be able to put my eyes on it and see what's what. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Butler. Other questions? Okay, seeing none. Senator Polk.
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Moving on to Senate Bill 3119, I'll recognize Senator Blackwell to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier this month, we passed Senate Bill 2372, which was the Mississippi Hospitality Sustainability Grant Program. This is its companion from the appropriation side. And so what we've done is we're holding out 83 million for the hospitals. We're still in the process of going through data and working with the Hospital Association. So that amount could go up sometime in the future, but anyway, we're working on it, and the bill has a reverse repealer, and I'll be happy to yield for questions.
Are there questions, Senator Blackwell? Senator Kelvin Butler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Blackwell, didn't we just pass a bill on the floor about $80 million for the hospitals?
Yes, sir, and this is the appropriation component.
Oh, this
of
is
that.
the appropriation part of it.
Yes, sir.
And now we up to 83 million.
83, yes, sir.
And do you anticipate that going up any or what?
We're looking at the data that the Hospital Association has provided us, and it's a possibility. I personally would like to see it go up, but we need to take a look at what they're providing us to make a determination if there's going to be more funding.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll add to this just for your full edification here, but the 83 million that's in this is ARPA funding, and it's allowed. And so we're pushing the edges of where we're going to reach. We're going to cap out on ARPA. So if there is some additional funding or something else that's going to have to go on through the hospital sustainability grant, it's probably going to be, unless we make some drastic changes, it's probably going to have to be from another source and not ARPA.
Okay,
Yes.
so right now then, how much money are we anticipating spending with the new money on ARPA?
If you take all the things we just
That was
passed
talking about.
and this one too, you're going to be about $10 million shy of what our total amount is in ARPA, give or take a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Butler. Other questions, Senator Norwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Blackwell, have the, I guess, the criteria for the allocation of these dollars, has that been set?
We have looked at what the Hospital Association has sent us, and again, we're going through that, but yes, they did set out criteria based upon beds and whether the facility had an ER or not, or if it was a critical access hospital.
Okay, now, and I'm not, I guess, privy to that, but are there allocations for hospitals that may not have as many beds, but the need for care is as great or greater?
Yeah, yes, sir. And that's part of what we're trying to take a look at. Again, we're still assimilating information from the Hospital Association. But like one of the things we want to take a look at is the total number of licensed beds that they have, and then their average daily census that they actually run. So basically their staffed beds. So want to take a look at their profit and loss, see what the revenues have been, what expenses they have. So again, we're going through a lot of that information with them.
Okay. Say so look at the profit and loss in terms of, I guess I just have concerns about the formula allocation to make sure that greed does not overcompensated and need is undercompensated in the process.
Sure. And I'll be happy to provide you the document that I have, and you can take a look at it.
I would. Thank you, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman. Thank you, Senator Blackwell.
Thank you, Senator Norwood. Are there other questions? Seeing, hearing none, Senator Blackwell, your motion.
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, we'll move to Senate Bill 3120. I will call on Senator Branning to explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 3120 is a funding package for transportation infrastructure in our state. And the total amount of the package is $620 million, and you will find that on line 11 of the bill. And the source of the revenue would be from the capital expense fund. Now, this amount is broken down as follows. $100 million will go to the Emergency Road and Bridge Fund, detailed in Section 3. $480 million will go toward the existing 3-year plan for capacity, which is in Section 2 of the bill. And then $40 million for the federal match that's required to draw down the federal funds for the program is found in Section 4. And that is an explanation of the bill. Very simple, but a lot of large dollar figures there. You know, transportation remains a priority of this body, and I think that this is a wonderful use of one-time monies. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to yield for questions.
Thank you, Senator Branning. Questions? Senator Kelvin Butler, you're recognized.
Just one question, Mr. Chairman. How much money we give them last year, Senator Branning?
So the total budget was $1.4 billion last year, and of that, about $200 million or so was from state dollars from capital expense. And so if you look at this, it's a lot more money this time coming from capital expense into their budget.
Thank you, Senator Branning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Butler. Senator Turner Ford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Branning, do we have any idea how many projects were requested or applied for last year and were not funded?
Are you referring to the Emergency
Yes.
Road and Bridge Fund? I don't have that information right here in front of me, but I can get it for you really at the conclusion of the meeting. I have already requested that from MDOT today, and they say they're working on it. So we'll be glad to provide that to you shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, Senator Turner Ford. Are there other questions? Seeing, hearing none, Senator,
Title sufficient to pass, Mr. Chairman.
motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is House Bill 603. This is the transfer bill. I have inserted a strike all and putting our language, our Senate language that we passed in, same thing that you've already voted on and passed. So if there are any questions, I'll yield. If there are none, I'll entertain a motion. Motion is title sufficient to pass, strike all. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And also 604 is the ARPA sections. If you look at the last bill, you can see there are some numbers in there, but that's some of the numbers from last year. So there is a reverse repeater in this. This is just keeping alive all the code sections that we need for ARPA expenditures. Senator Turner Ford, question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be brief.
Sure.
With the Rural Infrastructure Grant Program, is that language in this bill that's being brought forward?
The
Water,
rural
is it
infrastructure. Oh, yes,
311? I'm
yes.
saying, I meant water,
Yes.
3115.
Yes, all the sections for funding that we've got are in this bill.
My question is, as I understand it with the rural water associations, or it is a question, are they subject to public records, open meetings, the public bid requirements?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. It seems like we took up a bill on that years ago, and I hate to say, I don't remember the result of whether that was approved or not, but I don't know if anyone else, counsel, you.
Because I understood that with, even though counties and cities were directly funded through ARPA, rural water associations were not able to receive those appropriations. So my question is, what type of safeguards, if any, do we have in this bill that would allow for some sort of public accounting, transparency, or scrutiny of how those associations expend their funds?
Well, I know through the process, they're required to present a plan and they're not going to get paid till they do the work and they show that their plan has met the requirements. So I think that would be the only check that I would think, and that's part of what the Department of Health will do in this process, is to make sure that they are going out and checking to make sure the pipes have been laid, the water's filtered in, turned on, whatever's got to be done to make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to do. And they're going through a scoring process too, just like the DEQ went through with the cities and counties. They've got a scoring process, and last year they scored them, and I don't remember what that threshold score was, but they had a score number. If you didn't meet that number, you didn't get it. And we're going to put some more, if we pass this, we're going to put some more money in it. So maybe some that were just off the list might be able to get it. There is the requirement. Corbin notifies me that they have to, the Department of Health submits an annual report no later than December 31 to Lieutenant Governor, Speaker, and the Appropriations Committees, both the House and the Senate.
So with the program that's being administered by DEQ for the municipalities and counties, they will be required to go to public bid, reverse auction, et cetera. Is that correct?
I think that is right, but let me verify, unless there was some emergency need. Yeah, to meet whatever the federal requirements are, and I think that would include that, but we can find that out, Senator, before we get to the floor.
What I would like to do is offer an amendment, if I may.
Okay.
If I'm recognized.
What's your amendment?
My amendment would be that the rural water associations would be required to follow the same bid and public expenditure requirements as the municipalities and counties. And that's my amendment.
I don't know if that's not already required, but if it is, I don't know. Before we take a motion or take a vote on that motion, council or anyone else that may have knowledge about what they're required to do, I would like to know. Yeah, it appears, hold on one second. I think it's covered, Senator, but if it's not, yep, those are Treasury rules. If you look at 281, and then we've got the Public Procurement Review Board. Senator, I tell you what, if you want to, I don't have in general, I don't have a problem with what your amendment is. I don't want to mess up the bill or create some inconsistency between that and DEQ as they monitor cities and counties. But if it's not being done and you want to offer that amendment, I won't oppose that amendment on the floor if that's what you want to do. Or if you want to offer it now, that's fine, but we may have to take it out later on if it messes up. I'm going to move to take it out if it messes up the requirements or makes them different than any other agency as they deal with these public funds for projects like DEQ and Department of Health are administering.
I'll withdraw it. It may have been easier to get it in here than on the floor, but thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? If not, motion. Motion is titled sufficient to pass, strike all. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. I'll entertain a motion to rise and report. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.